I don't know about you, but if my calendar says I'm gonna do something, then I am gonna do something. If you're like me and you use your digital calendar religiously to keep track of all of your engagements, all of your appointments, all of your everything, and if you want to get more organized with your finances, then this video is for you. So I personally use my calendar strategically to remind me of different due dates, deadlines, renewal dates, and so much more. So in this video, I am talking about organizing your finances using your calendar. I'm going to share 7 different ways that you can use a calendar app in relation to money management and managing your personal finances a lot better. And if you stick to the end of the video, I'm going to give you 3 additional systems that you can use to organize your finances if you don't like the calendar option, or if you just want other options as well. So by the end of this video, you are gonna have practical tips and ideas for organizing your finances better, no matter what system you choose. For those new here, hello and welcome. My name is Lissa Prudencio. I'm a personal finance expert, an accredited financial counselor, and the co-host of NetNet Podcast, where we talk about hidden costs and help you navigate every financial decision in life. So, quick disclaimer. I use Google Calendar, so a lot of my examples are going to be based around Google Calendar, but you should be able to use any calendar app that you can access on your phone, on your laptop, whatever you use the most. There should be some equivalent on your calendar app of the various tips I'm going to talk about in this video. So let's jump right in. The first way you can use your calendar to manage your finances better is to set a money date. This means you are creating a meeting with yourself and your money. And if you have a partner that you share finances with, you can include them in it as well. What you want to do when you set a money date is create a time block that is recurring that you will use to work on your finances. So what you actually use this time for is totally up to you, but the goal is to be proactive about managing and improving your finances. Believe me, when it comes to finances, consistency is going to go a long way. Sometimes it's hard to see progress made on improving your credit or building wealth or seeing your investments grow, but if you can stay consistent, you will see improvements. So one of those ways to be consistent is to work on your finances on a regular basis. So some ideas on what you can use this time block for include reviewing expenses, paying bills, forecasting your budget for the next month, reviewing your paycheck, learning about personal finances, and reviewing your credit card statements just to make sure that nothing looks out of whack or that you weren't charged for something that you didn't actually buy. So how often should you set this money date and how long should it be? Well, all of that is totally up to you. If you don't know where to start, then I would suggest a bi-weekly, meaning every other week, because I think that's a good starting point. It's not too overwhelming, but it makes sure that you don't go for too long without checking in on your finances. So set up a 30-minute or a 1-hour block every other week. So for example, maybe you're free on Monday nights after work. So every other Monday at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, you have this time block where you are doing these various financial things. All right, another way to use your calendar, number 2, add due dates to your calendar. So this goes primarily for bills or loans or credit cards that have a consistent payment due date every month, or something that has a regular occurrence, like a bill that hits once a year, an annual bill. What you want to do is add that due date to your calendar. Pro tip, something I do is I use a specific color for all reminders. So on my calendar, I use the color gray for anything that's just a due date reminder. So when you create this due date, you're going to make sure that it recurs and happens every month on the same day, or maybe that's every year on the same date. All right, number 3, this is tied to number 2, the due dates, but you can add reminders that your due dates are coming up. So I do this in 2 different ways on Google Calendar. So number 1, sometimes I just create a whole separate calendar entry. So for example, if my rent or mortgage is due on the 1st of the month, and that repeats every 1st of the month, then what I might do is I'll create a whole separate calendar entry for the week prior to the 1st. So let's say the 24th of every month. On that 24th of every month, I put a reminder that says, hey, reminder, pay your mortgage if you haven't already. So technically, I do get email reminders from my mortgage servicer that tells me when my bill is due. But in case I miss that email, this is sort of just like a backup option for me. It's a reminder that says, hey, Lisa, go into your account and check to make sure that you've made the payment. Now, the other easier way that you can do this in Google Calendar is instead of creating a whole separate calendar entry, when you have your due date reminder, let's say it's your rent due on the 1st of every month, you can actually go inside of that calendar entry and you can set alerts. You can set alerts and notifications on your app or email notifications, and what that will do is when this due date is coming up, it'll send you a notification. What this does is it makes sure that, just because you put your due date on the 1st, you're not just gonna be like, oh crap, it's the 1st and I don't have any money to pay this bill, because by then it'll be too late. Instead, you can set a reminder for days in advance of that due date as an extra reminder. All right, number 4, something else related to your finances that you can track in your calendar: track birthdays. Specifically, I'm talking about adding people's birthdays to your calendar who are in your close circle. So people that you actually care about, who you care to celebrate. Now, this is how it relates to your finances. So whether you're the type of person to buy gifts for a person on their birthday, or maybe if that person is having a celebration or an outing, maybe dinner or drinks, and you plan to attend, having those dates on your calendar is going to help you plan your budget for those months. When people have celebratory dinners or drinks, or if you buy gifts, these are all things that can add up and end up throwing off your budget, right? You thought you had enough money for the month, but you had a couple of these one-off things. Now, all of a sudden, you've spent more this month than you planned to. So the goal isn't to avoid all of these fun events and to avoid celebrating your friends, but the goal is to know when they are coming so that you can plan for them. Here's a little side pro tip. Especially if you're using Google Calendar, I would make sure to use the same spelling of the word birthday, or maybe you use B-Day. Whatever you use the same word in every birthday entry. Or you can even throw in another random code word in all of those calendar entries. And the point of this is so that you can search for them very easily in your calendar, right? Maybe at the beginning of the year in January, you want to see, all right, when is everyone going to be celebrating their birthdays? Maybe I add extra budget towards fun for those months. You can just search in your Google Calendar, put in that word, and it'll pull up all of the dates that you have to plan for. Now, that is the manual way to track birthdays and add them to your calendar. If you use Google Calendar, there is actually a way to automatically add birthdays from all of the people in your contacts. The way you do this is you go to your Google Calendar and there is a hamburger menu on the top left. When that is open, you'll be able to scroll down to other calendars, and you're gonna want to click on the menu that says Browse Calendars of Interest. You can select your contacts, and then birthdays will show up on the left-hand side of the screen. So you can turn this on if you want everyone's birthdays to show up on your calendar, and these are all of the people in your contacts. Now, personally, the reason I prefer doing it manually and not just automatically, even though it seems easier, is because I somehow have like hundreds and thousands of people in my Google contacts, and not all of them are people that I care to track their birthdays for. Like, no disrespect to them, but I don't want my entire 365 days of my calendar to have birthday reminders on them. So it's up to you if you want to use that method. All right, quick intermission before we move on to the rest of the list. If you're enjoying this video so far, if you've taken anything out of it, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, and maybe even share this video with a friend. It really helps me reach more people, and as always, I appreciate you guys. All right, let's continue that list. Number 5, another way to use your calendar for your finances. You can set reminders to check your credit report. You can do this once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. So first off, not everyone needs to check their credit reports all of the time. Once a year is usually sufficient for people who have good credit, and especially if you're not opening and closing a bunch of accounts. The reason it still might be a good idea for those people to check their credit reports at least once a year is to simply make sure that there's no incorrect information, because you don't want some error having been reported to your credit that's not actually something you did that can negatively affect your credit. So in the United States, everyone is entitled to 3 free reports every year from the 3 major bureaus, so 1 each from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You have to go to annualcreditreport.com to get that. Now, some people like to go in and get all 3 at the same time. And theoretically, they should all have the same information in them, even though once in a while there could be an error where one is different from the others. Now, what you can do if you do want to check it more frequently is to pull one every 4 months from a different credit bureau. That would be instead of pulling them all 3 at once. That way, you can check your credit report on a regular basis and still utilize the free reports. All right, number 6. Set a reminder once a year to check your beneficiaries. So you can set beneficiaries on things like your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your life insurance policies, and there's slight differences between the different types of beneficiaries on these accounts. But the main takeaway is these are people that you care about and that you want to leave your assets to if something were to happen to you. Now, obviously, I don't wish death upon any of you anytime in the near future, but it's just a precaution, right? You spend all this time trying to build your wealth, build your assets, you work hard for your money, and if something were to happen to you, the thinking is that you want that money to not go to waste. You want it to go to someone that you care about. So some people like to do this check-in in January to kick off the year fresh, but it doesn't really matter when you do it. The whole point is just make sure you do it about once a year to make sure that the people you've listed as your beneficiaries are still the people that you want there. Sometimes people will forget about it and then like 10 years will pass and their beneficiary is someone that they don't even talk to anymore, that they don't even care about. So that would be the worst thing, and that's why you want to just keep it in mind to check it every so often. And I think if you can set up a calendar entry that recurs once a year as a reminder, that's sufficient to keep you in line and to make sure that you check in on it every so often. All right, number 7, last but not least, another way to use your calendar in terms of organizing your finances is to set a year-end planning date. So this is similar but different to your regular money dates that we talked about at the beginning of the video. What you want to do is set a good amount of time, maybe 1 to 2 hours in Q4, so that would be at the end of the year, October, November, or December. I think October, November is the way to go. But there are some year-end things that you can check in on to make sure that you are taking advantage of them. For example, there might be employee benefits or tax advantages you have that reset at the end of the year. So this year-end planning step is not going to apply to everyone. It really depends on your situation and what you have access to, like what kind of accounts you have. But here are some examples so that you know what I'm talking about. For example, checking in on your 401k contributions. So if your employer sponsors a 401k account for you, and so this is your retirement account, you should know that there's a max amount you can contribute per year. Now that amount resets at the end of the year on December 31st. So if you haven't contributed as much as you wanted to this year, you still have time, right? If you set a reminder for year-end planning in Q4, then you have time to look at it and change your contribution for the rest of the year if you want to increase it. Another example of something you can check in on in Q4 is if you have an FSA. So an FSA is a flexible spending account. It is an account that you can use for medical expenses. And this particular account is one that would be sponsored by your employer, but it is a type of an account that is a use it or lose it situation. So this means you're technically putting money into it. You have access to it for the calendar year. But if you don't use it in that year, maybe you had no medical expenses or maybe you forgot about it, then after December 31st, typically, you lose it. Now, some employers might offer a grace period and say you can use it a little bit after December 31st, but to be safe, I think you should definitely just check in on your FSA towards the end of the year. You want to know how much you still have in it if you do have one. Now, for those of you who are a little bit further along on your personal finance journey and are building wealth, then your year-end planning might not just be a date with yourself, right? You might actually want to set a year-end planning meeting with a tax professional or a financial planner, someone who can help you navigate all of those things. All right, so there are so many things that you can use your calendar for, different calendar entries and reminders for yourself that you can use, but I hope that this video gave you some tips and some ideas to get more organized with your finances. Now, I didn't forget, I promised 3 alternative ideas for organizing your finances if you don't like the idea of using your calendar. Maybe you don't want your calendar to be all crowded, maybe you don't pay attention to your calendar. So number 1, to-do lists, right? You can utilize to-do lists. You can write these down on paper, or you can use a task management system on your phone. There are notes in iPhone that you can use checklists on, or other apps. Number 2, you can use email reminders. So if you use your email and you check it more religiously than you do your calendar, then technically it's another means of organizing your finances. For example, you can make sure that you get email notifications from all of your various bills and accounts, and then as you get those emails, you can label them, you can snooze them, you can add alerts to them. You can organize your email in any way that makes sense for you so that you don't miss any deadlines. And number 3, another option are apps. There are a ton of free as well as paid apps and software that you can use for project management and task management. I think a lot of times people get caught up thinking that those types of apps and software are for work, but you know what they're for? They are there to create systems and processes and to keep you on track towards those projects that you're working on. There's no reason why your own personal finances can't be treated in the same way. So personally, I use ClickUp as a project and task management software for my business, but I do have a section there for personal tasks. So if there's a paper I gotta fill out for taxes or something like that, then I create a task in ClickUp, put a due date, and then it makes sure to remind me so that I don't miss the deadline. I already alluded to using notes in your iPhone, or even Google and Gmail has tasks, but there are also other apps that I've heard about like Todoist and Tweak. If you have any other suggestions that you want to share with people, drop them in the comments. All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope you get more organized with your finances, or at the very least, I gave you some ideas. Until next time, peace out.